All right, I'm going to hit record on the other dealie. Okay, it's recording. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
This is Rebecca Lizelle, the founder of Infinite Ember and author of the upcoming memoir, What the F Was That? You can find me at RebeccaLizelle.com. You are listening to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith, reminding you to take a pause. You can do this.
Well done. Oh, so good. You just
Beautiful.
You needed a little sip. That's it. That's
I did.
Okay, let me hit stop. I'll be right back. So.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Brian Sachetta. Thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thanks, Jeff. I'm doing well.
Great. So you are at getoutofyourhead.com. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in your business today.
For sure. Might be a little long-winded, but what I would say is Get Out of Your Head is my writing brand and my mental health brand. So what I'm doing there is I have a couple books. One is focused on helping folks manage anxiety. The other is on helping folks manage depression.
Okay.
So those are already on the market. And what I do is I have coaching clients. I go on podcasts like these ones. I sometimes write blog posts, but in this day and age, I just find less and less time to do it. But overall, my mission is really just trying to help people with their own mental health. The idea basically being that, I'm not trying to replace a therapist or anything like that. I am just trying to say, hey, I'm somebody like, folks who are in my audience who have struggled with anxiety and depression before.
Right.
And I've learned some things along the way. So I'm trying to infuse those lessons into their lives. And then also, right, like just understanding that I've been through that process before as well, where even if you have a good therapist, your therapy appointments are once a week, maybe twice a week at best, right? So you need to figure out ways to fill those gaps and survive from appointment to appointment. So I kind of look at Get Out of Your Head as a supplement, if you will, additional advice and storytelling and tactics that folks can pick up to help them fill those gaps. So what I'm doing right now is I am actually a software developer by trade, and that's how I pay the bills, keep the lights on. The writing, the mental health stuff is
labor of love, huh?
Exactly. Nights and weekends venture. So at the moment, I'm actually like trying to take a step back and work on a revised edition of my first book, which is essentially, it'll probably end up being, by the time it comes out, about a 10th anniversary edition kind of thing.
Okay.
And it's really just meant to say like, hey, not that I haven't dealt with depression before, but anxiety is my main thing. Okay. And if that book, I guess I want that book to be as good as it can be, filled with as many stories and helpful tactics as it can.
Right.
And in the 10-ish years since I published it, I learned a lot more things, right?
Sure.
And so I'm like, I just want to make sure that all of that is captured in the book. So at some point in the next couple of years, that will be done and out. And then hopefully from there, another book. But it's just a matter of how much time I have. That's all.
Yeah. That makes sense. And it sounds all great. It's like you're a dude. And as it turns out, most humans have mental health.
Or lack thereof.
Well, quality be damned. Everybody has some mental health, whether it's good or bad, right? I guess you could call it something other than health, I suppose. But yes, so I get it. Human to human, we can compare notes. I was depressed when I was in my 20s, not diagnosed, but definitely depressed. So I have stories that go with that. If you've listened to the show, you might have hit one of those. Some of them are good, some of them are scary. But yeah. So let's go back in time and talk about Brian, say like in high school. Where did you grow up?
I grew up north of Boston in a little suburb, and I went to a public high school. And I guess just to jump into it right away is, in high school, as I think most folks experience, right? It's kind of a scary place, right? If you're not the most popular kid in town.
Right.
And even, you learn years later that even the popular kids, they had insecurities and fears and all that.
Right.
So going to high school, right? Like I just had this persistent nagging sense of fear, but I didn't really know what it was. I could describe it, but I guess I didn't really talk to enough people to be able to say, oh, hey, I deal with anxiety. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, I'm nervous all the time.
Oh,
and,
okay. All right.
I'm going to high school and it's like, oh,
So did
you
you
got exams.
now with like retrospect now, because that was been a while, right? If you look back, like, was it primarily the school experience or was it a combination of school and home stuff? How would you characterize it now with perspective?
I would say, I'm tempted to say a decent amount school.
Okay.
The home life is interesting where like, my parents are awesome, very loving, caring people. At home, I think in retrospect, I'm like, we didn't necessarily talk about a lot of problems, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just
I'm from the
kept things-
Midwest, so I get it. We're kings of repression.
Exactly. And, through no fault of no one, right? I think like
It's the culture.
Yeah, and it was kind of a feeding system where it was like you go to school, you experience all this nervousness, and you don't know how to process it and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then you go home, and sure, could I have been like, hey, I'm having all these feelings that I don't know how to process, and I don't know anything about them. I could have done that, but I was also like 15 years old, and I didn't really have an operating system or a manual for that. So
Right.
that kind of made me feel more isolated. And then I'd ping pong between go to school, experience the fear, come home, be like, just not really ever feeling like I should say anything about it, right? And if I fast forward just a little bit, and we can come back to it, but when I went off to college, the nervousness, the anxiety really ramped up a lot. And when I came back after my freshman year of college, I was like so anxious all the time. And eventually my mom was kind of like, hey, what's going on? Because
Okay.
I can sense something.
Yeah,
And I just broke down and cried. And I was
And
like,
that was while you were in college?
Yeah, that was after freshman year of college. And I was
Okay.
like, I have
But you
so
were
much.
still kind of close to home?
Yes.
Or in
So,
home? It's a lot of people
yeah.
stay home now. Yeah.
yeah. So going back for the summers, right? Like,
Okay, got it.
The dorm experience at college was just 9 months out of the year. You go home and you live elsewhere.
Yeah.
For the 4 years. So I was lucky enough to just be able to go home.
Right. Nice.
School. I went to college near my home, but even if I didn't, I still would have gone home. And so my mom was like, yeah, I can sense that something is off. And I kind of just like laid it all out there, and that was,
Lucky. Wow. That's actually,
Yeah,
that's a blessing right
absolutely.
there for sure.
yeah. And that was part of, I wouldn't say that was the direct beginning of the journey because it started before that, but
Right.
that was a turning point for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. A
where-
veer in the healing point, right? Like you're turning the right way kind of idea. Yeah. Oh, I wish I would have had one of those. Cause like I would say it was opposite for me. Like I had like sibling rivalry with my big brother. Right. So I think by the time I got to high school, I was like a freshman and he was a junior or senior. I think we were like 3 years apart. So like the beginning of my high school experience was like, it's better at school than at home because at least he's not picking on me at school. Right. But like all of childhood, I was being like little T tortured like most of the time. Right. And to varying degrees, not like anything super physical, more of like the psychological kind of torture, little
Yep.
T trauma. But then, again, in the Midwest growing up, you talk about this, not at all. Right. I remember like feeling a little bit like the grown up when I got to high school with my parents because they were like, not really, connected, as they say. I remember one time I had a buddy sleep over and my parents were supposed to be gone like all night because I think it was like New Year's Eve and they drove like two cities away and they were supposed to sleep over. Right. So of course we party. Right. And, we were done partying and it was like, I don't know, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. We're already crashed out on couches and my mom and dad come home. And my mom was like really, really drunk. And she like runs into the living room and says, "I just swallowed a whole bottle of aspirin and I don't know why." And then she looks over and she sees my buddy and says, "Oh, hi, Doug." Yeah, I know. And then because my buddy was there, she immediately goes to the bathroom and makes herself vomit. And we speak about it never again.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about, okay, we get one day of the year to get drunk and talk about our feelings. That's her generation. I got to watch and go, "Oh, wow. What was that?" And I tried to bring it up the next day and she's like, "I don't remember." Yeah.
Wow. My mind is a bit blown at the moment.
So I think that's not odd. I think the odd part is I'm talking about it publicly, right? That's the odd part, right? Is just because the stigma of these sorts of things. Like if my buddy Doug had not been on the couch, right? That might have been a whole thing, right? But because she was there, it was like enough of an interrupt for her to go, "I can't do this in front of Doug." Weird, right? Anyway, so I digress.
No, I mean, it's healthy to talk about. And
Right.
honestly, I give you kudos for talking about it.
Right.
I think just what comes to mind is a couple things, right? One, yes, different households, different kinds of situations there and levels of repression.
Right. Right.
There are many different combinations of things, right? It's like, again, I struggle to tell my own story sometimes because I'm like, if I really think about it, I'm like, nothing bad happened in my life pretty much, and I almost feel guilty about that. I'm like, how did I get anxiety? How did I get depression? Right.
Yeah.
Like I had a pretty good life,
I have that too. I know what you mean. It's like, because you and I have had like weirdly small t's, like little small lowercase t's. But it doesn't mean that just because you didn't have the capital T trauma that was like, police blotter crap, it doesn't matter, right? Trauma's trauma, right? And they build up. Like the little T's build up and they're more invisible than the big T's.
It's such a good point. And I would be tempted to say something akin to that, which it's hard to phrase because part of me wants to be like, it's more insidious or it's more dangerous. Right?
Yeah.
It's just that like you don't think to look for it. Right. And so I'm not even trying to compare which one is worse. I'm just saying the big T traumas are more obvious.
Exactly.
The little T's, you're like, nah, I'm good. Like nothing really happened.
Exactly.
And then you look back and you're like, oh, a conversation there, an argument there, an interaction there.
Right.
I never really got that wake up call moment to be like, do something different, change, whatever. And all of that energy eventually stacks up in your nervous system. And then it's like, I don't know how to release this.
It's like that little T that I just described could have easily have been a huge T. It just wasn't. It was like somebody lit the match. The spark was there. The little wick was burning and then it got snuffed out like immediately, right?
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Could have been a big deal.
Listening to it, I'm like, my response is like, and I'm not trying to criticize your family. I'm just like, that is so crazy. For your mom to come in and be like, I just swallowed a whole bottle of pills. Like that's bad,
I know.
But like you said, the fact that somebody lit the match and then it got extinguished.
Snuffed. Yes.
It could have been way, way worse.
Right.
I guess, it's hard, right? When you think about these things and you're like, at what level do you keep them at arm's length versus actually like looking at them and processing them? Because like there's some point in your mind where you're like, this is bad enough. I got to do something about it.
Right.
But you can't do that over every little thing.
Right.
And then therefore you sometimes eventually get to that point that we just talked about where you're like lowercase t, lowercase t, lowercase t, so on and so forth. 20 years go by and I'm messed up. You know what I mean?
Totally. The thing is when you don't do anything, right? Like I kept an eye on my mom all the time after that. while I was around anyway, like just knowing that was in there, right? That doesn't go away just because you start repressing it again. It doesn't, right? Now she's like 87 and she has dementia, and it's a completely different world. But yes, back then, I mean, before I joined the Air Force and left at age 18, I was definitely like, and even Doug was like, you got to keep an eye on your mom, dude. And I was like, yeah, I do. Suddenly,
Yeah.
my role as kid in high school sort of radically changed at that moment,
For sure.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but one thing that comes to mind, right, is like with the sort of arm's length thing is I noticed that as you talk about it, right, you laugh a good amount. And I'm like, there's some balance there that you're trying to strike between like, I want to make sure that I don't let this thing kill me.
Right.
But if I laugh too much and I push this down too much, that might be the same kind of like not
Right.
addressing the lowercase t's, right? So
Right.
I guess have you thought about that at times and tried to figure out a healthy processing for yourself?
I actually had depression, suicide moments myself later on in my 20s, right? And we talked a little bit about that off air. It went through stages. Like I said, like, I don't know how it started. It was pure depression, right? I think if I could describe it, it was more like the existential dread. Like I just thought like life was absurd, right?
I've been there. Yep.
Yeah. And I was just sort of, it's stupid. I just thought it was almost like I had read the brochure for life that like childhood gave me. And I was like, I'm in. Right. And then I got to adult and the brochure like was slowly eroding and it was all horse shit. And I was like, oh, all these little aha moments of the absurdity of life, right? I'm generalizing now, right? But still, I mean, a couple of suicide attempts. And even after, like, my last suicide attempt, I took rat poison. And I didn't die. And then I went to work, right? And that was a really bad day at work, right? Like, I didn't die, but I was very ill, I imagined myself looking green because I shat out the rat poison and it was green. Okay. And after I survived that day, I got to what I like to call the fuck it stage. Like, I'm not going to kill myself anymore. Whatever I was worried about, the volume was down now. So that's not a strategy. It's a phase. I wasn't getting healthy. I was just done with trying to kill myself. Does that make sense? Have you been in that place?
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And again, I appreciate your candor. Actually, like most of my second book, which is focused on depression, was existential depression. Same kind of story that you have, which was basically like, I grew up Catholic. My grandparents were devout Catholics. As I got older, and I still don't totally know exactly what I believe, but you kind of grow up and you're like, oh, God is good and we all die and go to heaven and whatever.
Right.
And I just read a lot of books, as I grew up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not saying that God isn't real, but there's a world, a possibility where he's not, or at the very least, the different stories that you're told as you grow up of sin and heaven and hell and whatnot. I'm like, even if there is a God, which maybe there is, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if I believe that. And then you're like, if I don't believe that, what else do I not believe?
Right.
And then I'm peeling back that onion. And to your point, like when you said the brochure thing, that hit me so hard. And I actually, in the middle of my own depressive episode, a lot of it was centered around climate change. It was kind of the inciting moment for me to be like, I don't know why, but I stumbled into all this climate change research and I'm saying to myself, look, I might have been wrong, but at least in the moment I'm saying to myself, we're destroying the planet and we might destroy all life on Earth. Therefore, is life meaningless altogether?
Yeah.
And then you combine that with the thoughts about God and religion and whatnot. And I read this book by Leo Tolstoy in the middle of the depressive episode,
He's
which
good.
he's good, but he's dark. He can
Okay.
be very dark.
Okay.
And so he's got this book called, and obviously he's known for War and Peace and all that. And
Right.
but this was called A Confession, and it was more of an autobiography. And he got to that same point that you're talking about, which was, he's like, life is absurd. I should just kill myself because if I don't, I have to watch everybody die before me. You know, and he's like, it's a cruel,
That's
cruel
close.
joke.
Right.
I should just get it over with.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when you're in that dark moment, like I'm sitting there thinking like, oh my God, like I'm not saying he's right, but those are the thoughts going through my own head at the moment, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I also reached a point similar to the one that you did, which is basically like, you can't go back, you know, you can't go back to childhood and be like, everything's hunky dory. Yeah. And I got the brochure back and it hasn't disintegrated and all that. But I think for me, sort of that F it stage sort of became like, look, acknowledging the fact that life is very difficult and not nearly as clean and sexy as like, you know, they may paint it in the religions. And obviously it depends on which arm of the religion or which story, because there's obviously the floods and, you know, disease and all that in the Bible as well.
Right.
But, you know, the sort of painted version of like, everything's good, you die, you go to heaven, whatever, like that piece, right? Like you can't necessarily reconceptualize that and get that back.
Right.
But I think where I landed was life is very difficult. It's full of changes. There's good moments. There's bad moments. I actually, for the longest time, especially, you know, while writing the second book, I was so afraid of death. It consumed me. The idea of being like, oh, I'm going to die. And then there's going to be nothing ever again. Like that completely broke my brain in a way.
Dread.
Yes. I'm just like,
that nobody wants to talk about. Right.
I can't do it. I can't think about it. Like it blows my brain apart and makes me so depressed. Where I landed after that battle, and it took time, right, is just being like, life's hard. There's ups and downs. You get to the point where like eventually it's not that you don't want to live anymore. You're just like, I go on the ride. I play the game. I do the best I can. I find joy and positivity in small moments in every moment that I can. And then at some point in the future, the ride ends. And if I did my best, that's all there is to it.
That's all you can do. I have points here. Like in retrospect, like after I kind of got out of the F it stage, so to speak, what I realized was yes, there was sort of like the existential dread, the absurdity was sort of like the spark, but suicide was more of like a universal fix to problems I didn't want to face. Like I didn't really want to die. I just didn't want to deal with my problems. Is that ring true to you?
It rings very true.
Right.
And I think that like, I don't want to steal your point here. I'm just like, no, in the future, I will, I would hope to write a third book. And a lot of that sparks from or comes from, so I did an ayahuasca journey in 2022.
Oh, wow.
And
brave man. Brave.
Yeah. It was fascinating, like just completely mind blowing.
Right. I saw it on Netflix once and I was like, I'm not doing that.
It is possible.
Far too much vomiting and the other thing. I didn't know. I was like, I'm going to find a different way to figure this out. But please expand.
And I'm happy to expand in many capacities here.
Yeah.
First off, on Netflix, I believe there was a show called Unwell. And one of the episodes, it was a series, like a disparate series, you know, it focused on different things across each episode.
Right.
One of the episodes highlighted this place in Florida, which is now shut down, but it was an ayahuasca church. And that's where me and my friends went to do ayahuasca. And I watched that episode and I was like, oh God, I don't know if I can do this. But my friends had already gone and done it. And they were like, it's safe. You can trust the people there and all that. So I did it. And what I would say, right, without giving the whole long spiel, if people want to find it, it's on different podcasts and whatnot. But the challenge, right, and it points back to what you said a minute ago, Jeff, is you're sitting there and you're like, I'm so depressed. I think I want to die, right? But I like, your brain plays these tricks on you to be like, the problem is living, right? And so if I just die, everything goes away, and that's the only problem. When you do something like ayahuasca, all the layers of the onion, not for everybody. It depends on your situation, how open you are to the medicine and all that.
Setting, all that stuff.
Yep. but the layers of the onion can unfold or unpeel. And when they do, you will see a lot of stuff that you push down that you're like, oh, this is what's controlling my life. This is what's trying to drive me toward death and suicide.
Okay.
I avoided these problems for a long, long time. This is the actual work that I need to do, not, necessarily just end it.
Right. That's amazing. So talk a little bit about like what sort, you don't have to get nitty gritty, but what sorts of things did you see that you thought you could like figure out or like work on anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to get super deep if you don't want to.
I will do it a little bit. It's hard to talk about at times.
Yeah, of course.
But this is the
That's
direction
painful.
that like,
it's painful shit.
yeah,
right?
that
scary.
That my third book will eventually cover is, I think, so again, this is on other podcasts. If folks want to get the full download, I'm trying to remember the name. I did a show where I did the full thing.
The download.
If I can think of it,
you'll think of it when you stop thinking about it. When you stop trying to think about it, then it'll pop into your brain. So don't worry about it.
Yep. And I could even try to look it up. But anyway, the full download is there. And so I go to this ayahuasca journey. I'm like, hey, my friends told me it would be interesting. Maybe I should go. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what the medicine would tell me. I don't, okay, I got anxiety, I got depression. Like, let's focus on those, whatever. Right. And
those are like the symptoms of the thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so the high level, right, and the core of the experience was like, it was tied into all my relationships and showing me how like some of the relationships that like, because you get to a point in your life where everything's kind of like in its rightful place, but like tidy in a way where you're like, I'm keeping you there because it helps me, and not necessarily like, oh, I have the best relationships in the world. I just put them into a spot where they are like manageable for me, that kind of thing. And so like I immediately, when I take the medicine and then I something talks to you, right? So like your own brain or whatever, like you hear voices, you're basically like psychotic for a little while, and you see a lot of things as you close your eyes. It's basically like dreaming while you're awake. And, like I said, I've always been close with my parents and I love them very much. And the very first thing, well, forgive me, it might be in first, might have been second, I don't know. The first two things I hear. So the first two, in which order, I don't know for sure, but the first one was, well, let's say number one. So I wrote this book about anxiety, and it was centered around mostly how I made a lot of progress during this one summer where I was like, fake dating this woman who was kind of like out of town for a long time. And I was really into her, but very anxious and didn't have a lot of experience on the relationship front. And I ended up learning a lot of things about my own anxiety through that experience. Unfortunately, the relationship didn't work out, but like, I was like, okay, silver lining is I essentially got this book out of it, or at least a framework for managing my own anxiety better. Okay. And I'm going into the experience being like, this woman is I haven't thought about her in a couple of years. You know what I mean? It's not on my mind anymore. And I get in there, and one of the very first things the medicine says to me, I see this almost like this piece of wood in front of me, and it breaks in half, and it says, that woman, her name was not your person. And I'm like, what the hell? Where did that come from? And then the next thing, or again, this might be 1 and 2 or 2 and 1 or whatever, the thing says to me, you have to let go of your parents. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm very scared. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that is indicating that they're going to pass away or something's going to go wrong or whatever. And the long and short of it was basically like, throughout the journey, it's showing me, right, that like, I've kind of built my life in this way that's like comfortable, but everything at arm's length, where like, I'm not really facing problems of like, if I, for example, if I have an argument with somebody, or I want to, if I'm feeling a certain kind of way and being like, hey, please don't do that. Or, hey, I would like to talk to you about something. Most of the time I would kind of shy away from that. And I'd be like, oh, it's okay. Do your thing, whatever. Right. And so we're building toward this idea of, okay, seeing where my relationships are and all that. And then eventually we start talking about like my fears. Right. And so I end up going, this is crazy. I end up in this vision, right? I end up I just have to preface many times to say that this is crazy. And people are going to be like, holy crap, what is he talking about?
It's okay.
In the vision, I'm like,
Safe
so I'm in a,
space.
yeah, thank you. I'm actually in a cabin. And so in the cabin, right? Like in real life, I'm in a cabin at this retreat. And so I'm on a mat in the cabin and I have my eyes closed. I'm lying down or whatever. And then in the vision, I went out of body and I saw the cabin. And then I just kind of droned my way up into the sky. And I get up to the sky and there's like these two celestial orbs. And I just knew immediately that they were my folks. And I'm like, what are you doing here? You know? And they were like, we brought you here. Excuse me. I get emotional about this for sure. He's like, we brought you here to show you how to find love. And my mind is like completely blown, right? I'm like, what the hell? This doesn't make any sense.
It's not about depression and anxiety? What?
Nope. And the crazy thing about ayahuasca is like, it shows you a lot of your fears and your shadow side, right? The things that you repress and all of that.
The things you're afraid to see, the shadow stuff.
You're afraid to see. And like, you know, I guess I'm basically getting into a lot of the journey. If you want more of the details, again, it's on different podcasts, but like, we'll get to a decent amount of them here, which is, you know, like I grew up in the 90s. In the 90s, like there was, as a kid, right? In the 90s, as a kid, there was nothing worse than being gay. If you were in middle school, like, I mean, we picked on, and I say we as it like, not that I did, but
the
like.
royal we, right.
Yeah, like kids, everything was, you know, gay was the most offensive thing, or like it was the worst thing that you could be, right? And it wasn't actually that you liked the same sex. It was like you're just gay. Became a derogatory term, and it was like generic. Your hat's gay, your shoes are gay, your haircut's gay, everything about you is gay,
meant just
right?
Generically stupid or bad, right?
Exactly.
Really didn't have anything to do with the other thing. Not really.
I mean, I think it like
other than
stemmed
the
back
word.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But it didn't always really mean what it was supposed to mean. Right. And so
I think just
I think just growing up in that environment, like I definitely developed like an internal fear, you know, a homophobia, right? Of like, if I'm gay, like, oh my God, my life is over. Everybody's going to pick on me, whatever. And, you know, I guess like what I would say about this, right, is like honest to God. I mean, like whoever you love and whoever you want to be with, I don't care at all. And I think that you should live the life that you want to and be empowered to do that. And I respect everybody for doing that. Like at the same time, like, I guess newsflash, like I'm not gay, but the challenge that I grew up with was like, I always had a particular fetish, which I don't really want to talk about in detail, but like it's there, you know, particular item of clothing. And I struggled with that my whole life, where I was like, I have to be gay because I have this fetish. It's strange, it's different, whatever. And nobody on the internet talks about it or anything like that. Or at least I guess I should say, when you're in 5th grade and you know you have it, you're like, but the internet didn't exist yet. You're like on an island by yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yep.
And so
one source of isolation. Right.
Yeah, I did my best to manage it when I was growing up. And then I actually had a depressive episode in college where like I had managed it for a solid 7 years, where I was like, I'm done with this. This isn't a part of me, push it down, that kind of thing. And then it just came back up. And I, you know, basically that episode in college was me being like, oh goodness, I tried to outrun this my whole life and I can't outrun it. And I am somebody that like I don't want to be. And I was suicidal at the end of college.
Right. Okay.
Because I was like, my brain was still saying, you know, going back to 5th, 6th grade and being like, this means I'm gay. And if I'm gay, then it's the worst thing in history. And I got to kill myself. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I don't say any of this to belittle anyone. Like I use that word, but like
that was your experience. Yeah.
That was my experience. And that was, you know, the 90s that we grew up in. And so I was extremely depressed senior year of college, didn't know what to do about it. Went to a few therapists. They were not helpful at all. Like one dude who was supposedly like an expert in the field of, you know, like, I forget what, sort of like sexual deviance and stuff like that. He was like, well, you know, the fetishes come up when you're depressed. And so if you resolve the depression, then you won't have the fetish anymore. And I'm like, I had the fetish when I was in like second grade, dude. So like I was been depressed since I've been in second grade. Like that makes no sense. Like,
Right.
thanks for your advice. I'm out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that didn't help at all. I got on antidepressants. Those didn't really help. Anyway, like at some point, like, you know, I had graduated college. I moved into the city. I kind of just got consumed in a good way by getting a job, working, trying to like build a life for myself, have some fun, whatever. Anyway, all of that. And I know that, you know, I want to keep the time within the limits
This
here.
is all good.
But yeah, so basically on this ayahuasca journey, let's circle back to it, right? Is I see my parents up in the sky and they're like, we brought you here to show you how to find love. And I start to see in this field of vision in the sky, I start to see these different doors. And my dad is like, you see those doors? We're going to open them. And I'm like, oh my God, what is he talking about? And so this is, again, this is happening in my own mind, and it's all visual with this like sort of celestial energy and whatnot. And so,
yes.
yeah, it's just crazy town.
Voices
Like,
in
I don't
your
even know
head.
how to
Right.
describe it.
Well, that's
and
why
so my
you're
dad
laying down with friends.
yeah. So my dad's like, in the vision, he's like, here we go, Brian. We're going to show you how to find love. And his little celestial orb shoots this cosmic energy over to a door and opens the door. And he's like, there you go, buddy. And it's me and a guy doing the fetish. And I'm like, oh my God, no. And he's like, we brought you here to show you that you're gay. And I'm like, I'm completely beside myself. I'm like, I pop up out of the vision. I'm in the cabin. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to kill myself. Like, this is crazy. And again,
Right.
it has nothing to do with the actual, like if so, again, anybody's sexuality or anything like that, that is years and decades of programming, mostly on the societal level of like,
Right.
in fifth grade, if you were gay, that was a death sentence. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's very
I get it.
hard to unravel all that in 5 seconds.
I get it.
In an ayahuasca journey.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm in absolute despair on the mat. And I'm like, I cannot believe this. Like, I lived my whole life. I repressed this. I thought I knew who I was. I guess I don't. And eventually I'm like, you know what? If I'm gay, whatever. I just don't even care anymore.
Life is absurd, you know?
Yeah, absolutely absurd. And so,
and where are you age-wise now? You're working now? You have a job? You're after
when I did the
college?
journey, I was like 31, 32, probably
right.
31.
Gotcha.
I'm currently 36. And so I'm in the cabin. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Get back on the mat, close my eyes, and I get back into the vision. And, you know, the thing that is representing my dad is like, he's just sitting there with like a smirk on his face. And I'm like, what's up? And he just starts laughing. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, what? And he's like, did you really think I brought you here to show you that you were gay? You really thought for 30, however many years, you really thought you had no idea who you were and you were repressing this your whole life? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like,
Right.
you tell me.
Right.
And so he's like, you should.
I don't know.
Yeah. He's like, you should have seen the look on your face. It was priceless.
Okay.
He starts cracking up and this vision, like behind the door, evaporates. And so when people, right, like you had said, you didn't want to do the vomiting and whatnot of like enduring an ayahuasca experience.
Right.
So what's happening is like you're releasing energy and tension that's built up in your nervous system. And so when that door evaporated, that vision evaporated, I didn't vomit, but I did pass some gas.
Okay.
And what people say, so what people say happens is there's sort of like some symbolic releasing of energy.
Yeah.
It could be through vomiting. It could be passing gas. There was one time where I just like cracked a couple knuckles and I was like, oh, I feel better. Another time during the experience where I gave a big sigh. And that helped a lot. And so anyway, we go through this journey, right? We're going through the doors. My dad's like, you know, he brings up another one and he's like, okay, well, you know, this is all visual. He's not really saying a lot, but next door is like just me and a dude, no fetish. And he's like, and I'm like, what are we doing here? And he's like, I almost got you. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
Cause I was like, we just went through that. Are we doing that again? He's like, I'm just kidding. You know what I mean? So we're going through doors and he's like, okay, now we need to show you all your trauma. And I'm like, what the hell, dude? And he's like, so see all these doors down there? We're going to open them up. And I'm like, what the hell, just again, it's just completely mind blowing. And to give you a visual, right? Like it's almost as if there's a bubble or a circle, like in the middle of my field of vision. And most of these doors are on like the right-hand side of the bubble, and they're kind of smaller. So we're going through all of them, like basically from top to bottom. And as he says, like, let's look at all your trauma. I'm like, oh God, this is going to suck. Like, did I get like abused or anything like that? This is going to be really,
that I don't even know about. Right.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to know this.
Yeah.
And
that's scary. Like,
yeah, he just starts rifling through all the doors and he's like, nah, I hate to break it to you. No trauma. I'm like, oh, thank God, and that was like a big relief, like kind of one of those, maybe a sigh or an exhale or whatever. And he's like, okay, you went through all the doors. You did miss one though. And there, again, this visual bubble in my field of vision. And all of a sudden there's a big door in the middle that I hadn't seen before. And there's like a spotlight shining on it. And I'm like, where did that come from? What is that? And he's like, no, this, how we said we were going to bring you here and show you how to find love? That's your door. And I'm like, oh my God, like what's behind the door? And it's just, I open the door. It's just a woman doing the fetish. And my dad was like, essentially your healing journey is like, find somebody who you can share everything with.
Wow. Including that thing you're afraid of.
And he was like,
okay,
it's not even, and to be honest, like, because it's been like 5-ish years now, I can't even remember if he said, or if I just, cause you do a lot of integration after the fact.
Sure.
And I can't remember if he said it directly or if I integrated the idea that like, it's not even necessarily about the fetish. It's about the lifestyle of truth, honesty, and openness.
Okay.
Right? Like if that's a big part of you and you try to get into a relationship and you are unwilling to share that, like your relationship is going to be on an unstable foundation.
Sure.
And so it was essentially like, yeah, it's about the fetish, but it's also not. It's basically, again, going back to what I was saying at the beginning of, if I keep everybody at arm's length and I'm like, hey, I don't really speak my mind. I don't really say the thing that's always on my mind. Maybe I date people and like, I'm always a little distant. I don't always talk about these deeper things. The medicine and, the visions and the voices were like, you got to do that. Otherwise you're never going to break through. And essentially like all those things, the communication, the fetish itself, relationships, going deep. It was basically like, that's the actual work that you need to do, not like reading another self-help book. And yeah,
it does. So it's basically cutting through a lot of bullshit.
Cutting through a lot. Yeah. And basically, in a way being like, the anxiety and the depression all stem and like, it's not a perfect thing where it's like, look, we live in a tough world. Like it makes sense that you'd be nervous, you'd be anxious about certain things. It's a very uncertain world. Right. At the same time, like if you find somebody with whom you can really share yourself and you have full trust in that person and they have trust in you and vice versa, all that, right? It's like, you're probably not going to want to feel like you want to kill yourself every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it was like that. The message was like, that's the core thing that you need to work on. Though, anxiety, depression, other things stem from that mostly. Again, not 100%, but mostly. Yeah. And that's the work you got to do. And so there was other things that I learned in that journey as well. But like, I think I've been talking for like 15 minutes now. So that was a big thing. And
that's good. Yeah.
It was just like, it's just crazy because the message that, one of the takeaways, right, is like I don't know if you've ever listened to or read anything by David Foster Wallace, but he's very well known for this quote where he says like, he's talking about two fish and he's like, these fish are swimming along and one of them turns to the other or whatever, right? Maybe some other fish comes along and says like, hey guys, how's the water today? And one of the fishes is like, what's water?
Right.
And that's essentially what ends up happening in our lives in a lot of these situations where it's like, you live through however many years of a fetish or a trauma or a big disappointment or continually not getting what you wanted in your life. That was always there. Your brain found a way to keep that at a certain length where that became the water that you swim in, where like it's guiding all of your decisions and it's all around you, and yet you can't see it anymore. And so,
Right.
Ayahuasca can help reveal that to you again.
Right.
At the same time, like as you mentioned earlier, well, Jeff, you had said like, I wouldn't do ayahuasca. What I would say to folks is like, you don't need to do
Right.
ayahuasca.
Right.
It'll just get you there
Yeah.
very quickly and
Sure.
probably painfully.
Yeah.
But if you have a good therapist, which is hard to find, especially given the cost and accessibility and all that, but if you actually worked on this stuff, right? If I had a therapist that I liked, that I talked about this stuff with for a long time, we would have gotten to the same place. Maybe not in the same,
Yeah.
cosmic
There's fast ways, there's slow
significance.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really it. And it's just
I got lucky.
fascinating.
For me, like at that, about the same time, like leading up to the depression and the suicide attempts for me, I had met this dude that was into energy work and meditation. So sort of like a spiritual mentor, so to speak, right? But not from, it was more like the new agey kind of guy. He's sort of like, he was like he was an attorney, right? And he lived in Hawaii up in a very expensive house. And I'm like 18, 19, whatever, in the Air Force on my second assignment. And he just says, come on over to my house. Let's hang out. Right. And I'm like, okay. Right. Nothing sexual. just get that out of the way.
I thought we were going there.
Yeah, nothing sexual. But what he did do, he's put me on this massage table and he does this like energy work. Right. And then he says, well, what'd you think of that? Right. And there was this whole thing about how like it was really neat, but not like a big deal to me. Like, but the words he said was like very transformative. Like the energy work was like, what the hell was that? Right. Maybe I integrated it later, maybe not. We did it a couple times. Again, nothing ever sexual. But he said, like this story, and I can't attribute it to anything but him, but he said some famous guy had an epiphany on a beach and he heard this voice and he said, we are not here to know. We are not here to compare. And we're not here to one other one. And I'm blanking now. No, compare, and one other thing. Damn it. But we'll figure it out. But anyway, those things like still hang out with me, right? Like it became part of my BIOS. I got a BIOS update that day. But anyway, I wanted to mention that because I think because I had that sort of like going around in the background, when I did come up to get to that effort level, I was starting to look for new and interesting tools like what you're doing now in your life. You're like trying to figure out, okay, I don't know what to do, but I know I don't want to die anymore. So I got to figure some shit out. Right. And then I figured a lot of things out, like meditation, huge, like, pick your own poison there, but like whatever you land on, I would say just keep going and doing it because it can really help. I think it's like the slow way to get those downloads. You get them in like very, very small doses, which I prefer.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't like getting strapped to the side of a rocket
I don't like
ship
pooping.
and blasting off in his face.
Violent pooping is not in my thing to do list. But anyway, and more power to you or anyone that wants. You do you. I'm just saying what I like, right? And I think ayahuasca, whatever, like mushrooms, LSD, weed, right? Meditation, they can all get you to the same place. And it's like a transcendent experience that rewrites your BIOS. You get a firmware update. You're getting new software, dude. and it's healthy, right? So like I've like reordered my whole life because of these experiences, since it's been an ongoing process and it's still ongoing today. But when I talk about like afterlife, right, I try to stay agnostic, if that makes sense to you. It's like, I'm going to just say, I don't know, but I'm going to say, I want to think that there's something next, right? it seems like consciousness continues, not Jeff, right? Like in my meditation now, Jeff Smith is just an idea, right? I've never, so like when Jeff dies, it doesn't matter. I never was him anyway. I'm something else. I don't know what that is, but that real me is eternal. That's what I want to believe, but I can't say for sure that that's true. Now, if it turns out that the atheists are right and there's just nothing, that's not all that bad, right? That's the worst case scenario. Everyone that's ever born dies, and it's inevitable. It can't be that bad, right? It just means it just means oblivion, right? You could say you go to sleep, you don't wake up. There's no more. There's no more consciousness. So you can't be conscious of pain or anxiety or struggle. You're just gone. And that can't be all bad. That's the worst case scenario.
I think those are all really good points. And that, like, I've tossed those ideas around in my head quite a bit. Yeah. I think absolutely, like, the slow burn of meditation or whatever it may be, of getting to that transcendental spot. Yes. Like, there's research there showing that people do get there quite a bit. And you don't need to be, blasted off into space or whatever. But I agree too. And I'm like, I would say for me, right? Like when I was in the depressive episodes, I mean, dude, I mourned. Like, I was like, oh my God, like there's been so many days where I'm like, I want it to be the simple thing that my grandparents told me, which was you go to church.
The brochure back. Yeah.
I want the brochure back. I absolutely do. And people are like, oh, what do you believe? Are you this, that, or whatever? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could tell you. There's some days where I'm like,
make up one. It's good. You can make up one. I think improvising spirituality is my gig. I have some tenets, but like, there was a guy that was really big into psychedelics, and it was, now, of course, I can't remember his name, but one of the brothers that are big in the psychedelic world, the LSD brothers, the one that died, he was all about like, I want a system of not believing anything. It's not a belief system. It's a non-belief system. And when I heard him say that, I was like, yes, because it's all horseshit. Not in a bad way, in the most wonderful, awesome way possible. Anyway, it's a hard thing to transmit. That's why it is hard. Find your own thing. Yes.
Yeah. And I think I actually align with what you said quite a bit, which is, again, there are days where I'm like feeling really down and I'm like, oh, life is meaningless and XYZ, whatever. But like somebody said it one time on a podcast that I was listening to, and they were like, who are you, Brian, whoever, to be like, of all the people in the world, and nobody knows for sure like what life is and the afterlife and all that. Who are you to be like, I absolutely know with full certainty, there's no meaning, there's no purpose, everything's predetermined, whatever, right? They were like, maybe like, don't be so arrogant, maybe keep your mind open to the fact that like, you've been wrong about a lot of small things. You might be wrong about this one. So that's where I think I normally land, which is like, I would still love, and I'm like, always like, I try to pride myself on being a good person, a moral person.
Right.
And I'm like, I would love nothing more than I die. I go to some awesome party in heaven. God's real. Everybody's there. We're having a great time. And even though it doesn't make sense because time and all that stuff of like, well, who's there? Who's not? What do you do? Right. Like, do you get bored? Like just some awesome place. Like I want that. I hope it exists, but I can't know that exists.
You can't know that. Right. Right.
And I can't know on the other side either, like on the atheist side. So I'm like, to your point, Jeff, I'm like, I think on a good day, I'm like, I try to stay agnostic and be like, I hope that there's meaning and purpose and all of that. I really want to believe that. And me, one person out of 8 billion, like I can't know the answer. And so maybe I just got to stop questioning it.
Yeah. Yeah. We are getting close to wrapping up, but if you want to keep going, we can.
No, I think we're good, and I think we'll leave some a few notes for folks
you should come back.
Chew on.
Exactly, you should come back and let's have more chat. We didn't really get to the Vroom Vroom Veer, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Well,
I think implicitly we did.
Yes, we did.
There was some Veers in there.
Totally. It wasn't your typical VVV show, but that's okay. So let's talk a little bit about how folks can get in touch with Brian. Socials, website.
Definitely. So getoutofyourhead.com is my website. No dashes, no spaces, anything like that.
Right.
On Instagram, the handle is getoutofyourhead. Same thing, no dashes, no underscores. It did just come to mind. I was telling the story about the ayahuasca journey. If you wanted to hear the full thing, where it's probably twice as long, the podcast where I gave the full download is called Mind, Body Matters by Greg Rennie. I believe I have that all right. Yeah. So if you feel so inclined, check it out. Otherwise, shoot me a DM, whatever. Happy to chat. And
DMs are open. I love that.
DMs are open.
It's so Gen Z. DMs are open. I have no open DMs. Okay, don't DM me. You can DM me all you want. You'll never get a response. Anyway, sorry. Hey, this has been a blast, Brian. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was, I think we did our own veer off of the traditional path, and we talked about something else and had a really fun conversation. So thanks for having me, Jeff. And it's really great, right, to be able to talk about these things openly and honestly.
This is free therapy for me. So thank you.
Awesome.
I hope you got something out of it too.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.